everyone, it's me Varlo. 2024 was a fairly good year for gaming, and I got to check out a lot of different games. As I did last year, I wanted to make a quick list of my top 5 favorite games of 2024. As always, this is not an objective best games of 2024 video. I didn't really play that many new releases this year, but the few that I did play I really enjoyed a lot. My list has a pretty interesting mix of games this year, so this should be a pretty fun list. Without further ado, let's get into my top 5 favorite games of 2024. The first game on my list is the creature-collecting sandbox survival game Palworld. This was the primary game in my rotation for the early parts of 2024. I had my eye on Palworld since it was first revealed in 2021. I think it really surprised everyone with how good it was. It seems like such a silly idea at first because it looks to just be Pokemon with guns, but it's actually a really fun survival game with a vast open world to explore. I spent so many hours just aimlessly running around the islands to see what kind of creatures and loot I could find. The rest of my time was spent developing my base and figuring out new ways to automate it and expand my empire. It's an incredibly charming game that I instantly fell in love with. If you haven't given Palworld a fair shot, I think it's totally worth it. At the end of the year, an expansion called Palworld Faebreak was revealed at the Game Awards, which just looks absolutely insane. I've been really busy with other things, so I haven't given it a try yet, but I really am excited to get around to it at some point. Of course, the underlying theme of my channel is Sonic the Hedgehog, so he of course had to make an appearance here. Sonic Generations is one of my favorite games ever, so I was ecstatic to see it was being remastered with an all-new expansion centered around Shadow. Sonic X Shadow Generations truly delivered on every front. Shadow Generations has some of the best music and best level design I have seen in a Sonic game in years. It was such a blast to play, and the only thing I wish it did was be a little longer because I genuinely was disappointed that I had completed the game and there was nothing left. It sounds insane to say that a Sonic game featuring Black Doom and Mephiles from Sonic 06 is one of the best Sonic games of all time. It seems like an absolutely absurd thing to happen, but here we are. This is also the only Sonic game that can boast about having Keanu Reeves as a voice actor in it, which is definitely a huge deal. I think I'm going to try to go for all achievements on this game somewhat soon because I really want to get back into it. Probably the weirdest pick for my top 5 favorite games of 2024 is Batro. Batro really was the little engine that could this year, even being nominated for Game of the Year. Batro was a game I was sleeping on for a while. It was pretty much delegated to being in my endless backlog of games I'd maybe get to eventually, but FOMO got to me and I had to give it a shot. I was absolutely hooked. Batro seems like a simple game on the surface, but when you really get into the thick of it, it's a beautifully complex game that can be broken on whole other levels. There was no better feeling for me than playing an insane hand and getting a ridiculous number of chips with it. Seeing multipliers go into the thousands and 10,000s was ridiculous, but the absurdity of it was what kept me coming back. I always wanted to make a better deck, play better hands, and see the numbers go up. The rush of trying to outdo yourself in this game and get further is what makes it so great. This is a hard game to sell people on. It's one of those games that you just don't really understand until you play it and then it falls into place and you just get it. This is probably a controversial pick, but the Game Awards considers this to be its own game, so I will too. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was truly a magnificent expansion. The week it came out, I put an ungodly amount of time into it. It takes everything that was great about Elden Ring originally and dials it up to 11. I know this expansion did wonders for the lore of the series, but I honestly don't care about that. I just like to fight the bosses, and from that front, this DLC did not disappoint at all. The bosses found here are some of the most epic and formidable foes that From Software has ever made in any of their games. The landscapes you traverse here are also incredibly diverse and captivating. I found myself getting lost in the Land of Shadow for hours and hours. It's a really open experience. I didn't have the same experience or path as any of my friends, which was a pretty magical experience. We all were in new frontiers and trying to make sense of it all. This is a must-buy for any fan of Elden Ring. It adds so much content that a playthrough of Elden Ring will just never be the same again. There's so many new options for weapons and talismans and armor sets and spells that you have a seemingly endless amount of ways that you can play the game now, on top of everything that Elden Ring already included from the start. My favorite game this year snuck in at the very end of the year. Marvel Rivals has really taken the gaming community by storm with its fantastic roster, pun intended, and great gameplay. I've put an insane amount of time into this game already. It's only been out for a month and I've already completed all the Steam achievements for it and played it for a whopping 100 hours and counting. It's truly a masterpiece. I'm a huge Marvel fan and at one time was a huge Overwatch fan, so this game was right up my alley. It's been a real blast to play, especially with friends. It's still early days for Marvel Rivals, but if the Season 1 update is anything to go off of, this game is just getting started. Even though the gameplay feels familiar, there's a real freshness to it with the team-up abilities and destructible environments. These features give it a unique feel over other hero shooters. It's been an absolute joy to experience the launch of this game, and I can't wait to get back onto the battlefield. To be completely honest, I'm probably going to hop on Marvel Rivals as soon as I upload this video. That's why Marvel Rivals was my #1 game of 2024. Feel free to share your favorite games of 2024 down below in the comments section, and let me know if you agreed or disagreed with my own list. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Here's to an even better year of gaming in 2025.